Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session, this afternoon session. And in this session, a team from the Project Management Institute, the Kenya Chapter, is going to help us appreciate the role of the construction industry in the development of our country. And they are going to take us through the opportunities, the challenges, and probably emerging trends in the construction industry. And I hope even if I say it in Kiswahili, it will still be sexy. Unajua, kazi ya mjengo. Yeah, I don't know whether it's still sexy that way, but it's a very important. Just to give you a glimpse very quickly, because we have a very short time. In the financial year 2021-2022, out of the 3.03 trillion budget that we had, most of it was focused on the big four agenda, that is food security, universal health care, manufacturing, and affordable housing. Out of that 3.03 trillion, 236.7 billion was focused to improving energy and infrastructure. And currently, if you look around, we have a lot of constructions going on, either sponsored by the public sector or the private sector. In the 2022-2023 financial year, we had a budget of 3.3 trillion. And the main focus for this year's budget was economic recovery from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of this budget, 21.3% will go to development expenditure. Of course, the rest will go to recurrent expenditure. From the development expenditure, 58.5% will go to infrastructure. And this amounts to about 416.4 billion, an increase of around 8% from the previous financial year. And this infrastructure will include things like roads, railway, energy, water, etc. We have a new government, the Kenya Kwanza government. I took a bit of time to look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. I hope you have read the manifesto of your government and you know what to expect. In this manifesto, there's a promise that housing and settlement will get a financial commitment of 250 billion for a 5-year period. And infrastructure, that is road, water, electricity, there's a commitment of 200 billion. And there's also a commitment to establish an infrastructure fund or bank to manage the financing of these projects. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess with that background, we can see the big role that the construction industry is poised to play. And it is this that we want to wrap our minds about in terms of all these funds being set aside for infrastructure. What are the opportunities we have for the construction industry? And what are the challenges that we have that may prevent us from taking advantage of these opportunities? And what are the trends that we can take advantage of to bring these opportunities to fruition and also to help us deal with the challenges? I am Dr. John Otieno Oredo. I'm a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. I'm going to moderate this session with our panelists here and who are already seated here. Just next to me here, we have Noel Onyango, who is Assistant Director, AIA Architect Limited. Next to him there, we have Engineer Howard Mai, who is an infrastructure specialist, arbitrator, and project management. And at the extreme end there, we have Daniel Deuri, who is a construction project manager, Afrimeg International Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our panelists. And I think it's always good to start with opportunities, yeah? Because when you see the opportunities, then even if there are challenges, the opportunities will give you the impetus to overcome the challenges. So I would want our panelists to give us brief remarks, given some of those figures that I've read. What are the opportunities that we have in the construction industry? I don't know who will want to start or who will want to give comments on that at the beginning. Yes, Noel.
Maybe I'll start. About opportunities in the construction industry. I think one of the opportunities is robotics, and then there's been use of technology trying to improve our efficiencies and cut costs in construction.
Thank you so much. As you had been told, my name is Howard. I've worked mostly in the infrastructure sector, and those big figures that have been mentioned are probably going to be spent in that sector before we move to other smaller sectors like buildings. And so really the big opportunity there is that the moment you hear the billions, you see the opportunities. We do have room for construction companies to get business. We also do have room for construction professionals to get the room to do complex designs, to grow their knowledge, and to try to deal with real challenges that you meet in the construction industry. But more importantly, because I'm also in dispute resolution, there is also huge room for dispute resolution professionals, because as I always say, construction projects begin with disputes, and that's why it's an open area for practitioners to also exploit.
Well, thank you, John. As we've been called the small construction, I am a construction project manager, Afrimeg International Limited. Well, as those good figures, I like to call them good figures because they show us there are opportunities to diverge. There are opportunities to look into. Also, some of these opportunities are coming up in professionalizing your companies. So opportunities in the design space, also in the implementation space. So I know we will be talking much about project management, that is the PMI certification. Also, I know there is someone who will be talking about the BIM, which also is in the designing space, but more when my counterpart here was really talking about the complex projects which will be coming up, and also which will also give us challenges, which are also in another way opportunities to innovate, to look into markets which we can be able to come in and hold them by the horns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the biggest opportunities we will see there definitely, when we see money, then there's definitely opportunity, and therefore you think of how to take advantage of that. I would also want my panelists to give us a peek into what they see as the challenges facing the construction industry. As a layman, I'm not in the construction industry. When I see a building collapsing, I start asking myself, who should I blame? And probably we have the challenge of many hands. By the time a building is up, there are many hands that has gone into it. And it may be very difficult to know where the problem started from. But anyway, what are some of the challenges that you see facing our construction industry?
Can I pick it up?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe the first main challenge is our mindset in the construction industry. We are still at the mindset where you'll be asked, is this innovation, how long has it stayed in the market to be able to show how strong it is, how well done it is. So our adaptiveness as a market, as an industry, that is both in as the client side and also as the professional side, we need to really change and tweak our mindset in picking up the new innovations coming up, also picking up professionals as you're bringing out your projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deuri. Will somebody want to add something?
I wanted to pick from the comment you made, but I think it should be able to guide our conversation. Problems like what you highlighted, collapsing buildings. And I just wanted to highlight two issues. One, we have a problem with skills matching, where we like focusing on the Kenyan industry and by extension, the African industry. You have institutions training construction professionals, construction project managers, architects, engineers. But when you get to the industry, the practice, there is a serious mismatch of skills. And the mismatch of skills happens in many ways. For instance, where you find fundis acting like engineers, where you find engineers acting like architects, like wanting to, because when you look at the built environment, the roles of all those many hands you mentioned, they are very distinct. The engineers have their job, the architects have their job, the quantity surveyors have their job, but we have a mismatch of skills where you find one person trying to do the role of the other person and nobody being able to pick those problems in time. So developers will simply, you will find somebody looking at his project feeling that it's small, engaging a fundi, and the fundi tells him that we've done these things before, we can do it at a cheaper price, you don't need an engineer. But when you come back where the rubber meets the road, you realize it will have been cheaper if you got the professionals and the correct professionals for the correct assignments of the jobs. The other area I wanted to highlight quickly is that I mentioned that because of the complexity of our projects, we have been bombarded by disputes in construction projects. And this has become an area that is consuming a lot of money. I always say you realize money is being lost on a project, but that money is not being stolen by anybody. It is just being lost, perhaps because disputes escalate, you lose time, you lose money, you lose quality, and at the end of the day, a project that was to cost $1 billion ends up costing 1.5 billion.
Maybe to talk about collapsing buildings. Yesterday, on Monday, there was a conversation about the same thing, and somebody said the biggest problem is the buck stops nowhere. So a building collapses and you can't tell who is responsible. So there's need to have, so that's one of the challenges, that we don't have someone who takes responsibility. But looking at our market, there are several challenges that we have. We have inadequate risk management. So you set a project and nobody has done a risk analysis. So there are no risk responses that have been developed or even a risk plan that is going to be adopted to manage that project. We have poor communication. That's a big problem in construction projects. You go to site and the architect has not done all the drawings. So the contractor is here on site and is lacking information. So then you have variations because, how can I build when I don't have information? Maybe the other thing that has been spoken to is limited skills or a problem of skills. We have a deteriorating skill gap, and then unrealistic expectations, which is also a big challenge. The client wants to have an elephant, they have a budget for a rabbit, and the architect has some other design or
Two elephants.
Yes, two elephants. Yeah, so those are some of the challenges that we have in the construction industry.
Thank you very much. Is kazi ya mjengo attractive to young people?
Certainly.
Certainly.
Well, it depends on what type of kazi ya mjengo. Are you saying kubeba simiti? Of course, kubeba simiti is not interesting. but doing renders, doing drawings, that is interesting.
Okay. I just wanted us to get that assurance because we are in
Dr.
the, yes.
One of the things that has created chaos in the construction industry is because of how the industry is attractive to everybody. And the reason why it's attractive to everybody is the money aspect. When money comes into play, the dirt ceases to be seen. So everybody wants the money, so they're attracted to it.
So if you want to get money, create a building project.
Not really. Not really.
Yes.
Because I do remember yesterday's conversation where the QS Guido, the NCA CEO, really put out this clearly. We are having projects which a project costing 40 million, 50 million, which your fees will be around 2 million to the tops. When you say money is everything, you are more of not looking in the aspect of you'd better finalize and professionalize your project so that it doesn't fall, or so that it's able to pay you back. Because also we are having sick buildings which are here. Also, yes, the collapsing is the fatality side, but also people are getting sick. Also, they are costing you as a client. So those kind of mentalities and those kinds of issues where people are not really putting their foot down and saying, we can do this, we can't do this. I think that is where we need to start from.
Essentially, I think just to add on what he said, we need to put in a lot more effort to enable developers to see where they actually lose money on projects. Perhaps that will wake them up to the reality to do things in the right way to avoid those problems. For a simple example, there's a time someone was telling me they want to put up a 12-story building. And I gave him a cost of studying the foundations. The cost came to approximately about 1.52 million shillings. And he was not very happy because he told me, you mean I've not even started excavation and you're telling me to spend 2 million shillings. But then I tried to paint a picture for him. I told him that building, when it's finished, paint work will cost you about 7 million plus. But if paint goes wrong, you can remove it and redo it and still have your investment. But if you do not get your foundation correct, you will lose the entire investment. But we need to paint this picture clearly to developers so that they appreciate the role of professionals to save money, so that they understand where exactly they lose money.
Thank you very much. You also spoke to the idea of fundis wanting to behave like engineers, and engineers sometimes wanting to behave like fundis or something else. I think we will delve into that tomorrow when we have our next discussion at 12:30, because it borders on ethics. Yes. And therefore we will zero down on those kind of behavior on the rights of more, on the lines of what is right to do as a professional. So we'll hold it there for today, and we invite you tomorrow for our discussion on that area. I don't know, to what extent does delayed cash flows challenge projects? Or just before, because we know sometimes you see a building stalled for quite some time, and the reason you hear is that the funds have not been released. And how does this affect the health of the building itself?
There are two questions there. First, how does delayed funds affect the project? Yes. In terms of one, you have consultants having to go to site longer than they had anticipated, and sometimes then you have the building exposed. You have steel exposed. Okay, you can always come and do. You can always come and sand the steel, but you are exposing this building to what it was not supposed to be. It was not weatherproofed. So you have slabs that are being exposed to rain that should not have been happening. They are not waterproofed. So when you then now come to finish the building, you might find that you're having to deal with maintenance issues before you finish your building.
Thank you very much. Munai, this for you, being in the legal space regarding construction. To what extent is regulation in the industry helping or thwarting the construction industry? Are the regulations friendly to the people, or they create unnecessary bottlenecks?
We need to appreciate that our industry has been very loose with minimal to no regulation. And the idea of regulation is now developing fast, especially after Constitution 2010. So we have the professional bodies which are being regulated by an act of parliament and the regulatory bodies, but the contractors now have also been brought under the regulatory umbrella of NCA. The challenge is that the regulation itself as it is still weak, very weak, where the regulators, sometimes they focus on the wrong things. They focus on collecting fees and levies and, ensuring that you are, as long as they know that you've registered there. But we've not gone to the nitty-gritties of the things that bring in quality and safeguards on the project. So there is room for improvement so that those areas are covered, because normally when regulation comes in, people feel that it's an impediment. But until we have a culture change, a mindset shift to appreciate that regulation is supposed to ensure that we inculcate quality into the projects so that we get it right the first time. It ceases to be a beautiful statement, but it comes reality that when you put up a building, it will serve its life's purpose. It will be a healthy building. It's not going to collapse on people. Neither is it going to cause health issues or to cause loss of money to the developers. And so if you look at it from that perspective, you will appreciate that the role of regulation is supposed to be improving and helping the industry, both to save money, to save lives, and to make the environment a lot more livable.
Thank you very much. I have a next question, but I'm shy to ask it.
You can ask.
Because my bench is already not diversified. How is gender diversification in the construction industry?
I could comment. That's a good question. First, to defend the panel, there was supposed to be a lady in the gender in the panel, but in our discussions, we realized that the time allocated for this discussion is too short to have so many people in the panel. So we agreed to have different smaller panels. So the good lady, the good engineer will be there tomorrow.
Actually, two of
Also
them.
to add, tomorrow will be more of ladies, more than gents. So
Yes.
I believe.
The question will be answered tomorrow.
But to continue, for a long time, construction was a male-dominated environment. But that trend has changed. We have women in real estate. There are women engineers, there are women architects, there are women surveyors. There are even, when you go to a construction site, you have women driving the earth movers, doing all sorts of things on site. So it's no longer a male-dominated environment.
Sure.
Thank you very much for defending that that position. And just a very last one on this area of challenges and things we need to look at. This comes to you, Theuri, and just very briefly, in less than 1 minute, how is the skill sets in this industry, the development of skills to our, especially the youth, so that they can participate more effectively in this industry? You said they don't want to carry blocks, and I'm wondering who is going to carry blocks. But What are you doing in the industry to skill them so that they can effectively participate?
Okay. I believe I'll pick that question and answer it differently.
Yeah.
In the sense, we are coming to a position where, as a country, because most of our populations are youth, and also that stating that also we, as the construction industry, we also hold a good amount of our population in our job sector, and also stating that we are turning into a knowledge-based kind of a country, in the sense most of our youth are picking up skills, are picking up professionals, also upskilling themselves in understanding what the other professions do, just to be able to gel together and to be able to work more efficiently, more and bring out better products, in the sense of both in time, cost, and quality. Yes, mostly that's what we've been looking at, but now you're finding we are also bringing out stakeholder management, in the sense of dealing with our counterparts in the agencies, also really trying to see how can we be able to, instead of it being a fighting kind of a conversation, let's be able to work together in bringing out these projects faster and without more bottlenecks.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now we want to focus our attention to some of the emerging trends, not only for the construction industry, but how some of these emerging trends will have effect or already have an effect on the construction industry. Yes, I think there's a bit of power, but maybe something. Oh, sorry. So we are having, somebody already mentioned something around robotics, virtual reality, things to do with concrete 3D printing, what we call additive manufacturing, areas to do with sustainable design. These days, there's a new concept called metaverse that we are trying to do 2D, 3D simulation of reality. Very quickly, could we just hear your thoughts, how some of these and any other emerging trends are impacting the construction industry in Kenya?
First, maybe to start, one of the rising trends, just not locally but globally, is smart connected cities. And with that, because this is driven by a desire for improved quality of life, improved eco-friendliness. So this is going to affect how we build, how we move through cities. People are talking about 15-minute cities. Okay, in Nairobi, we can talk about a 2-hour city. But people are talking about 15-minute cities. Then there's, in terms of materials, we have engineered composite, engineered timber, we have recycled materials, and then we have 3D printing. At the moment, people are just able to print walls. But if this then improves, this is going to be a trend that maybe would address some of the challenges like of bricklaying, because I've tried to do bricklaying and it's not easy.
I will leave the technology and the hardware part to be handled by the other panelists, and I'll focus on a soft area. Yes, construction disputes.
Yes.
The trends, the direction that we are going, and this is focused on trying to reduce costs in managing disputes, is that we are now focusing on the area of dispute avoidance, so that we are able to identify areas of conflict early in the project and resolve them professionally before they escalate into full-blown disputes and push us into costs and time delays. Thank you.
Deuri, you want to add something in 1 second?
Okay. Well, I believe we are coming into a position where before you bring out any project, you'll need to see your 3Ds, you'll need to have a virtual tour So those are some of the how we are adapting some of these trends and these technologies to be able to bring it out.
Thank you very,
yes.
thank you very much. When you mention lot of court cases, we see buildings stalled, probably not because of funds, but because the cases are in court, and they are taking many years to get resolved. There was this issue of young people are not really into this thing of carrying blocks. I'm told there's a technology called exoskeleton. Exo means outside, then skeleton something. So if you put it on, then you can be able to carry heavy stuff without really feeling it. Let's check if we could also use these exoskeletons to help us carry blocks, which young people don't.
Just to add on,
Yes.
on that, we are bringing out, there are like safety gadgets to be able to even see how someone is, one, on fatigue, and also to be able to see which are the places which have more accidents, to be able to bring out health and safety issues from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our time is over. We could have continued talking, but let me thank you for giving us this audience. This team is here courtesy of the Project Management Institute, Kenya Chapter, and these three gentlemen are project managers. They are certified project professionals. So we thank them for spending their time with us just to bring us up to speed with some of these issues, just as we also thank you for having sat here patiently to listen to us. Asanteni sana. Let's give all ourselves a round of applause. As I said earlier, another team from the Project Management Institute Kenya Chapter will also be here at 12:30 for a discussion on ethics and the role it plays in construction industry. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
And the project I'm in charge with, a global project built for skills, is heavily in the construction infrastructure sector, actually. And my first question is actually to pick the brains of the project managers in the panel, because what we are trying to bring a solution to the problem of skills mismatch in the infrastructure sector. And what you're doing in a layman's and just one sentence is you're turning infrastructure projects, construction sites into training and learning sites, working with the relevant stakeholders in the industry. So as project managers, how would you then recommend, or what other additional ideas would you recommend for this to work? Because we understand that is a problem that you would train, and when you go into the industry, there's difference. So that is why we put TVET trainees and TVET graduates into infrastructure projects and construction sites. But then there is a bit of rebuttal from the private companies as a matter of costs, as a matter of who are the trainees, the trainers that are going to train these people. So then what would be your recommendations on that, just to pick your brain? And the second question, because I would
allow you only one because of time, and if we get more time, maybe if there's anybody else with a question, just hold it on there. Let's pray that somebody else doesn't have a question, then I'll allow you to continue.
Please, my prayer, oops.
Yes.
All right.
And I have a bit of a question to ask the panelists and even the government itself. For a long time, from 2002 up to about 2018, the so-called certificates and diploma and apprentice certificates and diplomas were actually scrapped up to about 2018. Don't you think this is part of the issue of collapsing buildings? Because we do not have people down there. The engineers cannot go down and carry the blocks as Dr. Oredo was talking about. So this is part of the problems that that have been created in the industry, actually. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question, just a simple one. Payments, when you raise certificates for payments, then they are defaulted by the client. As far as an administrator's point of view, what is the best possible way to approach?
Okay. The remedies for payments are supposed to be inculcated in the contract. When you are writing your contract, you need to get your clauses correctly, and you need to put clauses that protect you as far as payments are concerned. Some of the remedies could be to either have penalties or interests on delayed payments, or you need to define, you can even define some drastic penalties like stoppage of works or slacking down of works. If you miss to put them in the contract, then you will get into bigger problems. But you also need to understand why people do not pay. Sometimes they do not pay because they don't have money. So you have to protect yourself at the time when you are writing that contract.
Thank you very much. You want to address one of the questions?
Yes, I'd want to address the question about funerals.
Okay, you are
it's
old enough.
It's a good
to do
question
so.
because this month, it's about remembering the dead. So, and all of us die anyway. But I don't think the buildings are collapsing because of the people who are building. But there's a problem. First, I'd say that there's a problem of responsibility. But there's also the problem with the developers. The developer decides that I don't need an engineer on this site, I don't need an architect, I've built this house, I built it on this site and it worked. Not realizing that each site, each plot of land has different qualities, has different properties. And then, so you build and you're building wrongly. So that's the problem. But there's a problem with technical stuff. There's a you can't get a plumber easily. So we need our TVETs to produce this kind of people.
Thank you. And of course, the government is really promoting TVET these days. This idea of turning a site into a training place. Your comments.
I'll answer the GIZ one. Yeah. One, I want to compliment you guys for what you're doing. Because what you've been holding SMEs and also in the construction industry. What I believe your next step would be more of as your program is at the moment, it's more for the directors, more for who are how do I put it? Who are making the decisions, major decisions in the construction industry. Maybe what you might now calm down is to now the project managers and also the skilled laborers who are now in the industry. But I know as one of the people in the construction industry, we are able to bring this out and we are able to partner in making our sites as training grounds, as per se.
I just wanted to throw in a little statement. When it comes to...
The director is looking at me showing.
But a short one.
A very short one, because I assume we are speaking to project managers. Yeah. And I wanted to borrow from the project management body of knowledge an older version, which was addressing the area of building a team, a project team or team composition. We need to go back to understand that at that time, when we are preparing a team that is supposed to hold a task, whether it is a task of burial or building a house or cooking, we need to, it is at that point that we are then supposed to match the skills of the people who are supposed to work on the project to the actual tasks that they're supposed to carry out on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. When you see a director walking up and down, it means things are very bad. So we'll stop at that point. Thank you again.